Welcome to season 2 of the Energy Upgrade podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa, master biohacker and successful entrepreneur. In season 1 of the Energy Upgrade, you got to have a taste for my obsession in all things health, energy, entrepreneurship, spirituality, and biohacking, or how to take radical responsibility in living a life by design. As a certified health coach, integrated health practitioner, kinesiologist, and seasoned entrepreneur who built and sold a 7-figure business, I want to dive deeper in this season 2. After healing myself from burnout, from my health falling apart, my hormones leaving my body, I'm here to share everything I wish someone had told me. Every day, I have the incredible opportunity to be mentoring women and supporting them in becoming true magnetic energy bombs. I'm helping them remember who they were all along. It's so powerful that I want to take you in on the journey, almost as if you were a fly on the wall. You'll find that I'm not your typical health coach, and I'm not your typical business coach either. I'm somewhere in between with a lot of spirituality sprinkled in there. This podcast is a sacred place where I come and share with you things that will bring you a high return on investment, because yes, I'm all about ROI. Life goes fast, and if I can show you a shortcut or two, I'll have succeeded at bringing you value. Thank you for being here. Let's go.
Your time is now. Your energy is your life force. You want to be able to magnetize your wellness dreams. A liver detox is the fastest way to start healing. You can and you will.
Welcome back to another episode of the Energy Upgrade. This is your host, Vanessa Grutman. Today, it's a biggie. I'm not going to lie. Today's a big episode. I have the warm queen herself joining me on the podcast, Kim Rogers. If you don't know her already, she is famous. She is a sensation online with more than 1 million different followers over her different platforms. Kim is a parasite expert, and she stumbled into that not necessarily because she wanted, but because life forced her to. And today we're going to have a conversation around what parasites are, why you need to care about this conversation, and why you should really, really do yourself a favor, in fact, for your kids as well, and pay attention to the conversation we're going to have today, because I can tell you, it's not only enlightening, it's frightening also at the same time, but we're here to offer you solutions. What was fun in today's episode is I asked my community for questions. So I received so many questions, and I think we answered most of them through the conversation, which was perfect. Now, I also want to give you a fair warning. If you are eating right now, you may want to come back to this episode a little bit later because, speaking about parasites may not be the most appealing conversation to have while eating a meal. So just wanted to give you a fair warning there. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about Kim. Kim Rogers is a seasoned wellness professional with over 18 years of experience in Western medicine. Kim has dedicated her career to advancing medical knowledge and improving patient care. Throughout her extensive tenure in the medical field, she has authored numerous medical publications, contributed to national allied health certification tests, and provided valuable insights as a member of medical advisory boards. Kim's journey in the medical field took an unexpected turn when her own health challenges led her on a transformative path. Struggling with endometriosis, parasites, Lyme disease, and mold poisoning, she embarked on a personal quest to stop taking pharmaceuticals and strive for a more holistic and natural approach. Inspired by her own healing journey, Kim founded Rogers Hood Apothecary in December of 2021 and invented the globally known best-selling Parasite Parasite Cleanse Kit. This kit consists of high-quality, handmade herbal tinctures aimed at detoxing unwanted parasites, worms, candida, heavy metals, and toxins, while also promoting well-being. Now, Rogers Hood gained widespread recognition after Kim's personal results about parasites went viral on TikTok and Instagram, gaining millions of views and hundreds of thousands of followers, crowning her the Worm Queen. With a commitment to transparency and quality, Kim's products have resonated with a diverse audience seeking natural solutions for various health concerns. Driven by her passions, Kim aims to empower individuals to become patient advocates for their own health. By sharing her experiences and her knowledge, she invites you to embark on your own journey. Now you can see there's a lot of overlap here. She had to go through her own struggle and started sharing her journey, and through that built her community, which went completely viral. Again, this goes to show you that this conversation is needed. We need more of it. So I'm so honored and so pleased to be bringing Kim on this podcast. Buckle up, take some notes, grab a pen and paper, because I have a feeling you're going to want to take action after this one. Okay, let's dive in. Kim, welcome to the Energy Upgrade. To tell you the excitement I have to dive into this conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, live from Seattle. I love it. Okay, so you are the Worm Queen. Quite the title, right?
Quite the title. Yep.
And for people who are new to the world of parasites and worms, I mean, we're going to take them on quite the ride today. But I would like to hear how you fell into this and a little bit of your story for people that are new to you. So where did this all begin?
So it began when we moved out to my property to build our log home. And I was not doing well. But first off, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I did not crown myself Worm Queen. TikTok actually crowned me Worm Queen. I did not want to be Worm Lady. So I said, I think that this might honor a crown. Okay. So
oh gosh. You deserve the crown on that one, the queen. Yes.
If I'm going to talk about worms, I need to have some fancy bougie title, right? Because it is a wild world out in the parasite worm kingdom for sure. It's wild. And in addition, and I'll talk about my story too, but in addition, we started a business over all of this too. So we really are in the thick of it. In the thick of it on a daily, all day, every day. So,
and also, I mean, literally, and people who are new to this world of parasites, your mind is going to be completely blown, but you are saving lives literally every day is what you are doing, because parasites can truly be the root cause of so many health issues and health conditions. And so I'm not surprised that your business is just booming like crazy. And I want to dive into that after a little bit, because it looks like, it almost looks like I'm buying it from an apothecary. It looks like, which
it's so beautiful. We have our own manufacturing facility, and we actually are moving into a 10,000 square foot one that we built ourselves at the end of this month.
wow.
So we're in a 3,400 square foot facility right now that we had to add on the 1,000 extra square feet. We do it all ourselves. So we are genuinely an apothecary, and we do it all ourselves. And it's really beautiful. And I feel like this world really needed this, because I needed it personally. And I decided that if I needed something, I was going to share it. And when I share my story, you'll understand how it all transpired with my own business, because it wasn't supposed to be that way. I was still chronically ill. I'm in a healing phase this year. I'm in a seasonal phase of just really focusing on supporting and healing myself, where before it was survival. I was dying, and I knew it, and my husband knew it, and we really did everything we could to support me while that was happening. And come to find out, it was so many other environmental toxins that were doing it to me, including parasites. And so in the idea of all of this that happened, I went viral on TikTok and was sharing my story and getting other people to help me. And then in turn, for that energy that they gave me, I then made videos with their information. And that's how all of this started. It started building a community for me. And really selfishly, it was for me, because I wasn't doing well. Even when I went viral, I wasn't doing well with my health. So it really kind of ended up being a full circle of how I was helped. And now I'm in turn helping those people in addition, like Dr. Jess and Dr. Kim, like they've all stepped in the ring, not even knowing they were helping me on this side of my life. So I'm now helping them and helping anyone that helped me get to where I'm at now, because that's how it should work in the world. That's what karma is.
Well, that's when you're aligned with your soul's calling, literally. And you didn't know at the time. And so you mentioned like dying is like, were you literally like, it was bad?
It was bad. So we moved out to my property. We sold everything because we became a one-income household, and in Tacoma, that's just not possible. Like you have to make two incomes in order for you to survive. And we owned a piece of property that we had purchased a couple of years before we moved out there full time, and we decided we were going to build a log home. And so I designed it. I got everything done. We did it all ourselves, just me and my husband. And then we moved out there, and we had come to the realization that like my health was declining rapidly. Like I couldn't walk very well. I didn't have a good outcome. I was 100 pounds heavier than I am now. Like things were not looking good for me. And so Jeremy and I, my husband and I, decided that it was time to kind of grieve that, but also get him set up so that if something did happen to me, that we would be able to he would be able to handle it. So
Wow.
that's kind of went out to that property to heal me or to like just be okay with everything. And so it was 2019. And then in 2020, I really started focusing on getting off of my big pharma medications and just really getting to the root cause of what was causing me to be so sick. I had had endometriosis since 2001-ish, and had a hysterectomy when I was 29. And I had my 13th surgery in 2019, and it did not go well, and I wasn't healing from it, and we couldn't figure out why. So we went out to the property to just like figure everything out and not have that like stress of needing to work a 9 to 5. And so I started getting off my big pharma meds. And then in 2021, I was watching TikTok, and someone said, I can't believe I almost offed myself over parasites. And I'm like, what is she talking about? Because I thought I had parasites a couple of years before when my appendix was removed. And then
Oh,
I had surgery. And then after that, I went to go get a checkup, and there was a weird spot in my checkup area. And so, and in the same year, I had a weird spot in my breast when I was getting a mammogram. And I'm like, God, what is going on with my body? And so I'm not saying that that's what everybody's problem is. I am, however, saying that's what my problem was. And so I'd already kind of looked at it a little bit and seen some things out there in the world about, what parasites can do and physical worms. And so it went away. Both of them went away after like 10 to 15 days. There wasn't spots anywhere anymore. And so I ended up thinking that I had them. So when TikTok presented the video on my feed, I wasn't really that shocked. I was more like, okay, now I need to find out what this chick did in order to help herself with the parasite issue, because I thought I've had them before. And sure enough, I started doing Paragard, which I don't like Paragard. I don't hate the company. It's a really tough cleanse, and it taught me a lot.
yeah.
And so long story short, I decided to do a video about my experience, and I've worked in Western medicine since 2004. And so I really have that credibility because I have 2 healthcare degrees, and I was a professor, and I ran 25 healthcare colleges. So I've really like been involved in the medical world. And I saw so many dead worms in the toilet. I saw flukes, I saw roundworm, and I started just digging. I'm not digging in my poop because I wasn't a digger. I didn't even need to. It was all in the toilet.
You're like, yeah, I see it. I believe it.
Yeah, yeah. And the pain that I had on my right side, that was a continuous pain and would go away, and then it would come back. And that's how I knew that I needed to have surgery again, because I had it every 2 years. That pain went away in 3 days after I did this parasite cleanse. And I've never done a parasite cleanse. I didn't even know what a binder was. I didn't know how to support my body. So overall, like I learned all of this in the audience, like because of my followers. I learned everything I needed to do, and I shared it all with them. So My video was very, very viral. And at the time, things are viral now, but at that time in 2021, 10.3 million people watched my video and 1 million people watched it in 2 hours when I first posted that video. It shut my TikTok off and my phone down.
And your nervous system probably at the same time. How can you even handle that? Oh my goodness.
And our whole family on my husband's side was showing up that day to help us start building our house.
They were like, we know that there's hope now.
They rolled in and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, I can't help you guys today. Like literally I'm going viral.
We're kind of busy over here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I didn't know that it's through the community that you started figuring out, okay, I should take a binder.
Yes.
And you probably discovered about drainage pathways. Oh, I probably should look into this. And oh my God.
I was a mushroom gal. That's why all of our merch and stuff has mushrooms, because I was a log home mushroom grower. Like I already had, I don't know, I had like 10,000 followers on my account, which was a lot because all I was doing was showing my log home and how to do mushrooms and like how to grow them and what they're, what they're good for. And so that's all I was. And then it went viral like that. And I'm like, well, at least I went viral over something I know about. Like I can research this. Like I understand the body. I understand Candida. I understand, these type of things. I'm going to teach them. I'm going to educate like I did as a professor. And so it's like, I can just have a phone and do all of this for other people. And like, literally it just takes a small amount of my time when it comes to like helping other people. And it really helped me too. So it was like kind of my therapy because I'm in the woods, like by myself.
And so when did you come up with the actual formulations? Because now Rogers Hood is like, you have like a full parasite cleanse. And so through all of that, when did you come up with that?
So the first month that I cleansed, it was like with wormwood, black walnut hull, and I didn't know about charcoal, so I wasn't binding. So it was really uncomfortable cleanse for my husband and me. And then I figured out, because Paragard sold out, I sold them out. Funny, like for 6 weeks, I sold them out. I found Oregon grapefruit, and I had been researching herbs because I just love natural things and always have. And so I found out that Oregon grapefruit, which actually is grown all over my property, which is amazing, that it's also a more gentle anti-parasitic. And if you add it to wormwood, it'll relieve more issues with parasites than just wormwood does. And then I had been doing usnea tinctures because usnea removes bacteria and viruses. And I learned a lot about usnea, and it grows from the back of my trees at my house. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got the mushrooms I forage and grow, and then I have some Oregon grapefruit and some usnea, and then I already have peppermint. So that's how Sustain came, which Sustain's my favorite. And then, so I was doing tinctures similar to Sustain and Parify. I was doing those two together. And then, so that was my second cleanse that I did. And then in the middle of that second cleanse, I realized that you should be removing heavy metals at the same time, which inadvertently I was doing because I was taking shiitake mushrooms, which is a heavy metal detoxer and a radiation detoxer. And so I would have been doing that, but not to the same caliber as a tincture form. Tinctures are way more powerful, in my opinion, than a pill. So then I brought in zeolite, and I like zeolite, but I like cilantro as a heavy metal detoxer much better. And while I was doing that, my liver was being taxed and I was going a little jaundice. So then I was like, oh, I need to bring in the dandelion root, right? So then I brought it in. So now I've created this very expensive yet very effective cleanse that's not mine. And I'm telling people, where they need to go, and they're selling out because I'm literally like 20, 30 million people in a couple of weeks was watching me. And so all of those people were going and buying, and then I couldn't get some answers on Paragard and what their natural ingredients are and why they use caramel coloring. And then it just started to be like, I need something more natural. Like if I can't know what's being put in my body, I certainly don't want to share that with other people. And so Parafy began.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. This is the right way to, like, this is when you are like, this business came to you and it was
Yeah.
just, and plus you have all these, like, Mother Nature was speaking to you, literally having all
Literally.
these things on your property, being like, hey, are you going to see we're right there to heal you and help you, tap into this infinite abundance that you have access to. It's so, so incredible.
It was very magical. And in Western medicine, because that's where I come from, in Western medicine, charcoal is used for like if you've overdosed or if you have alcohol poisoning, not a microdose of it to remove toxin and bind it. In the moment I added that, I was like, this is it. Like this is what
Yeah.
I've been missing for a couple of cleanses.
Oh, for
It was
sure.
awful. And then and then I went viral over Fulvic because I did a soak and I had worms come out of my feet and it's all on video. Yeah.
I
So
actually can't wait to do this. Well,
God,
slash
it's so
share.
good. It's like the first, so some people have crazy results right away. And then like for me, and I have it all on video because I was like, I'm not feeling anything. And then seconds later, I'm like, oh, something was swimming. And so that then progressed into like a couple of other things that I figured out, I found out that the reason why we were so sick is because it was in our water. We
Mhm.
have worms in our water at Hoodsport. So yeah, that's kind of how we ended up finding out everything that was going on. I found a company because I had done a LabCorp stool test and it came back negative, but then I did parasites.org and I used the same stool for LabCorp as I did with them and they came back positive. So I found out that I had Cryptosporidium parvium and my husband had D. fragilis, which are both water contaminated parasites. But also, I live on the outskirts of the rainforest, and still sitting water also has crypto. And there's 2 private lakes that I would jump in, and I'm sure I swallowed water a few times. I'm sure, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's inevitable to be around parasites. Like they're smarter than us, but all we need to do, and I'll say this a lot, is cleanse. Like we have the knowledge now, we have a product that you can use. We also have protocols that I give away on my website. I have free resources. Like the only thing we really want from people is to buy our kit, but everything else is free. I give you everything for the purpose of everything I just said. Like there is nothing out there. There's no guide. Like literally the only guide people had was my videos. And like I would spend 8-9 hours a day making videos and answering questions because this is such a thing. Like we're missing this in Western medicine countries. And I know for a fact how much we are missing it because I run a company now,
And imagine the body parts that you would still have had
Yeah,
you known about this earlier, right?
lost 9 organs. I've lost 9 organs. Yeah. Yeah.
9.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
had a full hysterectomy and I don't regret it. I have no regret.
you
But
can't, right? Because it led you to where
yeah.
you are. Yes.
But what I do feel passionate about is like, why don't you try something like this? Like, if this was an option for me to sit down and just, even if I only did it, just the tinctures, like if I didn't even prep my body for it, which I didn't the first few cleanses, but if I would have known about this, who knows where I would be differently? You know what I'm saying? So for me, that's probably my biggest passion is like you have options out there that no one is talking about anymore. And it's really sad as a society that like we just go directly to surgery or to that medication and not really explore other options or even our doctors giving us those options. My doctors never gave me any of these options. And I've seen a lot of doctors in the last 20 years.
Yeah, they don't know. And what's crazy is this is the most ancient type of medicine, right? If you go into indigenous communities, I mean, they still deworm. It's part of
Yes.
the protocol. And what I find also very ironic is we will deworm our pets
Yep.
and we don't ask questions. Of course they have them, but why wouldn't we
Right.
have? So I
Right.
want to dive for people that are like really new to this conversation. Like, what would you say? Because some of the questions I got from my community is, well, what if I don't have them? Is it harmful to do a cleanse if I don't have them? And I'd love to hear your response to this because I have mine, but I want to hear yours.
Well, we all have them.
Okay,
And
yes.
in so I hate it
Get
when
the obvious out first. Yes.
yeah, I mean, and I would always go, oh, not everyone has them, but we all have something that we're trying to avoid, and it's unavoidable. Like they're in our water, not all water, but they are in water, lakes, they're in our pets, they're in the dirt. Like in if you think about how other countries deworm. Mexico, it's mandatory to deworm twice a year in specific areas of life, like sports and going into school, like they pinworm deworm. And then they also do roundworm deworming because they know that this is a thing. Other countries like Jamaica do it once a month with a tea called the bush.
Hmm.
And the Amish do it seasonally. I'm not Amish, but I did study a lot of Amish medical since all this has gone on. Germany really supports deworming, especially with wormwood. You've got China and Korea, and they deworm consistently. And if I'm not mistaken, Korea uses very similar setup that we use here with Rogers Hood. So we all have our own form of deworming. It really is a thing, just not a Western medicine thing, because 100 years ago it was changed.
Yeah.
And so, ranchers deworm, farmers deworm, and they use other dewormer when they're deworming their horses and their pets, like goats and stuff. They also deworm when they stick that thing in their mouth to give them the paste. They're deworming, like it's getting into your system. You don't need a lot. So that's kind of like somewhere where modern people, like where we're at now in society, high rises, we just don't think that this could be something that would affect us. But in reality, it affects everybody. It affects every human, affects every animal. Like we're animals, so it affects us. If you're not soaking your produce, if you're eating raw produce, if you're eating salmon, if you're eating fish. I just posted a video from the farmers who are or from the fishermen that are across the street from me. They see them all day, every day. Like this is normal. It's just normal. And if you are not healed and your body is chronically ill, like most of us at this point in our lives, they're going to stay on with us. Like they're going to hang out in you because we are sad. We eat a terrible diet. We are not as active as we would like, and we are the perfect host for them. So of course they're going to come in and like take up house, right? And without accurate blood work and accurate labs that we are able to obtain, which we're never going to know that this is really an issue with a lot of chronic illness until someone like myself have come out and been like, listen, I had parasites, I had mold, I now have Lyme. Like I have all of these things wrong with me, which I've had probably for 30 years. And instead of trying to figure that out, you removed organs from my body to tell me that like, oh, that's endometriosis, which, that's a thing, but cleanse. Like I'm not fear mongering. I'm literally just, you have to cleanse. Like,
Corey, I
I'll
think, yeah.
do it,
Um, yeah, I appreciate this perspective, especially that you've literally, yeah, I can't believe 9 organs were taken out of you. This is wild. And so I think you have all rights to speak this way. And thank God you are here and sharing this information. And because I agree, I mean, it's part of the human experience. We are living on a planet that is alive with organisms. So unless we decide to live in a bubble, it's just going to be there. So
even a bubble, like
yeah, even a bubble.
your produce, like
yeah. Okay. So you talked about where we get them. Now let's talk about main common symptoms. So people listening, like what are the red flags? Let's say they're like dead for sure. You have parasites if you have these symptoms. Do you have like a few?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Grinding of the teeth. That's a big one. Grinding your teeth. Oh, look at that. Teeth grinding is huge because it really involves the stress of your lymphatic system. So they're in our lymphatic system, they're in our blood, our tissue, and our muscle. They're not just like a gut type of thing. And so when you grind your teeth, that's a really big indication that you have parasites. IBS and IBD. Excuse me. So constipation and diarrhea consistently because your body's trying to tell you something. Breakouts, acne, skin issues, like those are really big ones, including candida, which we all can get candida pretty easy because it's just an overgrowth of yeast. But then when it starts taking over, it turns into a parasite, because the parasite definition is anything that eats off a host. So that's where candida can affect your skin. I'm going to say, anxiety and depression. It's a big one because it starts here in your lymphatic system, like triggers your brain or triggers your gut. And so it kind of right here is where a lot, this is where our fight or flight is up in this area. So, a lot, like for me personally, it was bloating after eating. Like I thought it was endo belly. I looked pregnant, and it wasn't. And I'm actually learning way more things over the last couple of weeks than I really had before. Like I would get x-rays of my abdominal area and it would look like a lot of air. And they would just say, you have a lot of air in your intestines. Well, now I know that's candida.
I was gonna say that's candida having fun there.
Yep. Yeah.
Candida parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Eating after 7 p.m. and craving sugar. Those are really, really big indications because they're nocturnal creatures. So if you have insomnia, a lot of times that's because you have a parasite of some kind. And because they sleep during the day and they're up all night, having a party. And so mine, probably the biggest was movement. I have a lot of movement in my feet, and I had like itchy butt, which now I know because I had pinworms, especially over the full moon. So if you have flares over the full moon, and that's kind of like right before I started doing Paragard, the first time, my first cleanse, I was looking at the calendar like instinctively. Oh my gosh, I had a flare over the full moon. I wonder what could be going on. So I really took stock in my health like in February of 2021. And then in March, I started calculating, oh, I had another flare and it's the full moon. And then May, I was like, okay, something is going on. Like I need to research it. And I could see in my photos, because I'm like one of those people that screenshots to come back to it, that I was starting to research parasites. And then they came up on my TikTok. But seriously, it won't hurt you to cleanse. Like that's the thing, is it's not like you're going to take the Parasite kit and all of a sudden you're going to be sick and it's going to do anything wrong to you, because the herbs that we use are like cilantro, dandelion root, clove, and garlic. It's the way that we process our tinctures that pulls the medicine out of that herb, and then we process them in a tincture form. And so really you're just boosting your body. You're removing inflammation. They cause a lot of inflammation. You're removing that inflammation. You're getting nutrients in your system that we're just no longer getting anymore. So ultimately the side effect is that it removes worms, right? That's the side effect of Parasite. But you look at the big picture of it, you're getting much more than just a parasite cleanse. So
yeah, totally. And and going back on the symptoms, I'm so glad you brought the full moon. Because to me, it's such a dead giveaway. Especially when you start having hot flashes around the full moon. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed a lot of my clients are being told by their physician, oh, you're in perimenopause, or you're just like, it's your hormones. And it's like, you just do a parasite cleanse and it's all gone. Because like you said, they're taking first dibs on nutrients. So you have leftovers. Essentially, you're running low, like basically nutritionally deficient on a lot of nutrients, which makes it hard also to build your hormones. So I'm finding that a lot of hormone issues can be related to that too.
Well, and they're not just taking the nutrients from us. If you're taking any pills, they're getting 90% of that. So, our hormones are off. I do a topical. So I was pretty lucky about that, because they're not getting that as fast. But when you take something like your Synthroid and I take Synthroid and Cytomel just to boost my thyroid because I have hypothyroid. I've gotten to cut down on my thyroid med, but I wasn't getting really any of it. If you think about them taking it, absorbing that, because they can absorb 6 times their weight in heavy metals, spores, nutrients, and it's just crazy that this just isn't something that is discussed on a regular basis or even looked at first. Like I had mold, which I we won't go into the whole mold thing, but I had mold in my trailer while we were building our log home, and I had Aspergillus niger, so I had black mold poisoning. And I never would have known that if I hadn't been doing Parify. But like, there's other things that when you do start to do a cleanse that will unveil itself. And that's kind of what the root cause type of wellness that we're all really needing to go into first. And I think we need Western medicine. So I just want to make that really clear that like Western medicine is here for emergencies and to help us, but it's not here to heal us. That's our job. Like, that's your responsibility to find a doctor that's going to listen to you and to take things like doing Parify and doing a parasite cleanse into your own hands, because they're not there to do that for you. They don't have that time. They just don't. They're going to spend 2 minutes with you and be gone. And, that's disappointing, because that's not what we are thinking that should happen with our healthcare, but it's our body. And at the end of the day, you have to take that accountability for what's going on with you. Like, I started to succumb to like, oh, my health is trash and, all these things. But then I woke up one day and I'm like, no, like, I can do this myself. I don't know how. Obviously now it's been shown to me,
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. It's so important. We have to take radical responsibility. Nobody's coming to save us, and especially not the medical system. So And so it's what you said about the mold. We went through that, our family as well. And it's one of the worst things. But what's interesting is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for as long as you have parasites, they kind of have this little party going on. So they all feed on each other, but parasites will kind of feed on heavy metals and toxins and candida and mold. So for as long as you have parasites, even if you do mold cleanses and candida cleanses and Lyme, you try to get Lyme treatments or, anything like that, Epstein-Barr virus, all that stuff, it's not going to go away, right?
Nope.
You've
Right.
got parasites
You
out
have to
first.
parasite. So we say, because I have a mold cleanse as well, and then probably by the end of the year, I'll have a Lyme cleanse, because I've been using a lot of Lyme herbs that not a lot of people know about. And I want to introduce these beautiful herbs to people. So parasites first, we recommend 2 to 3 Parify kits prior. You can do back to back with 7 days between. So you could really get 3 good full months of parasite cleansing under your belt, and then pivot over to the moldies cleanse. Because parasites hold mold spores, you've got to release those spores. And so in my case, I tested negative for parasites, and then my eyes started to swell shut, because I was living in the mold and the parasites were no longer wreaking havoc in my body. So mold got to come in and take over. And I'm literally on camera, by the way, still. Like, I found all of my environmental toxin issues on camera. Like, it has been a full circle of social media, like fully healing my body. And that's why we do what we do so much, because like, I had no idea. Like, I had no idea about any of this. And it just wasn't something that I was a licensed medical specialist. Like, I had patients, I really was involved in my community in the medical world. I had no idea about any of this.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. And, wormwood suppresses the mold. And so when you're going through Parify, you're going to feel great. And then when you stop and you get off Parify, if you start to have rashes or any of those issues, you should hop onto a mold cleanse. Not because you necessarily are living in mold, but because the spores can stay in your body and accumulate and create their own colonies. And so it's not because you did the Parify cleanse, it's actually because you're removing the parasites who held onto those spores, and now they have legs and they can jump on and like start building those colonies in your body. And even the small amount of exposure to mold can be an issue, just because parasites hang on to those spores.
After the recent success of High Achiever, my last event, I wanted to deepen the work. I wanted to create a container, a vortex, where we could go even deeper as a sisterhood. And the idea of the portal came along. And this is going to happen on June 6th. Why? Because this is actually a potent portal
for transformation, for claiming our truth and our power, which is just so perfect because I want to take you into the Jaguar energy. The Jaguar reminds me of the woman who leads herself in the dark, the woman who is crystal clear on her vision. Despite maybe lack of evidences, she knows exactly where she's going, even in the dark. And that allows her to stay ahead, to lead the pack. That allows her to stay in her trailblazer visionary seat. And if that's you, I want to invite you to come and ignite using the solar power energy. I want you to ignite your intuition to unlock more effortless potential. And most importantly, this inner trust, this inner surrender, which is perfectly aligned with this summer solstice that is coming up also in June. Now, if you're ready for a different kind of event, if you're ready for this 2-hour ceremony of remembrance that will take place on June 6th, there will be limited spots. I want to create a very intimate circle. It'll be $33, and this will allow you to come in this portal energy where we will help high-achieving women of the new world, just like you, to activate your infinite light, because that is why you are here, my dear. I hope to see you there. It's going to be so incredible. I'm counting the sleeps.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
while you're saying this, I just can't help but think about kids, because schools are just so full of mold everywhere. But I think North America is one of the worst places because there's so many water leaks that are just, patched and never fixed. And here we have all this raise of like ADHD and like attention deficit problems. And it's like, I'm sure if they were to do something like this, we would see a big shift.
We have, like,
yeah.
as Rogers Hood, the company, we get, we've sold over 90,000 kits. So we literally get to see and hear all the testimonies. And I have almost 1 million followers across all of my platforms. So of course, people are in there commenting. And the reason why we have such a high intake of all of these mental health issues is specifically because our lymphatic system is drained. We're not opening our drainage pathways. We're not removing these environmental toxins because we're in a state of denial. And for me personally, that's just sad. Like, I've removed 9 organs over denial. You know what I'm saying? So like in a whole, as a community in Western medicine worlds, we need to be more okay with environmental toxins. Mold is real, like it's a real thing. Parasites are real, it's a real thing. Lyme is real. And I just feel like it's like we've kind of gone and been okay robotically until about 2020. And then I think that really woke everyone up and made them realize that, like, first off, Western medicine doesn't know everything. They just don't, and they can't. And I don't think maliciously any of like my doctors were like, ooh, we're not going to pay attention. And we're, no, I just don't think they know, and they have big egos. And you have to have a big ego to work in the medical field in a lot of ways, because you're taking people's health and you're treating them. And sometimes it's scary. So you have to like put that aside. I worked in the ER, I worked in urgent care. So I know what that feels like, but also you're a human that's a doctor, and you should be listening to your patients, because you could be doing them harm, which we specifically say do no harm when we take our oath, right? I'm not a doctor, but I took an oath that I would do no harm. So if you're not even willing to explore the option of someone doing a 30-day parasite cleanse, and if for some reason someone feels better during their cleanse, that could be the root cause. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, root cause is the piece that is completely missing in Western medicine, right? We are not looking at the root cause, of course, because we don't have time. So instead, we'll just try to fix and give you a little bit of quality of life for a little bit of time, right? But
Yeah.
I want to go back on drainage pathways, because I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, so I'm a big fan of always doing a liver detox first before jumping into parasites, just to make sure that drainage pathways are open. But what are your thoughts on that?
I personally feel like that's great, but if you don't have the time or the money and you just want to jump into it, our kit is so gentle that it's not going to harm you. And I added burdock root and I added dandelion root and I added the support. Yeah, I added it so that because I know a lot of people have liver flukes because they do eat sushi, I wanted to make sure it was supported. And our kit's much more gentle than some of the other things that are out there. And so you really could just use metal flush as your liver detox, right? Because it's really helping get in there and support it while flushing your system out. So I'm a big supporter that if you want to do a liver flush prior to Parify, that's awesome. If you don't want to because you really want to get after it and then do one after, I feel like that's kind of the way that you could do it as well. My favorite drainage pathway opening is castor oil with some red light.
Yeah.
And that's so helpful for the liver as well. And just specifically, just in general, how it derives that castor oil deeper and deeper with the red light. The red light is the mode of transportation into your cell. And so it just hits differently. And so I've had a lot more success when I do castor oil on my abdomen instead of doing like a full like liver sauce cleanse or something along those lines.
Okay, interesting. And so do you do the liver, the castor oil pack, or do you just put the castor oil and you use the red light over top? That's what you
Yes,
do.
I,
So
I
you don't
do.
pack.
I don't do a pack. I've done packs. I do packs on my thyroid area, but I don't do a lot of packs in my abdominal area because I think red light really is a bigger driver of the castor oil than just a pack. Like the pack is, and if you do a pack, you should put warm on that pack because heating the castor oil up creates a more medicinal value in it, and it'll actually go deeper than just putting it on with a pack. So a pack, in case you guys are listening, you're listening, a pack, if you're wondering, a pack is like a cotton or like a flannel that you wrap around and then it presses the castor oil deeper. But if you do that and then you add like a warm bottle on, like a warm water bottle or an electric pad or something along to warm it up, it actually creates another tier of medicine that's inside of that castor oil. And so when you don't have a pack, but you use the red light, it's warming and it's pushing it deeper into the different layers of the derma to get into the actual blood itself.
Love it. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So let's dive into one of the main, I receive so many of that question from my community is with regards to what can you still eat when you are doing the parasite cleanse? And as I was sharing before starting, a lot of the women who are listening have perfectionist tendencies here, right? So they're saying, well, I'm not going to do it if I can't do it perfectly to the T. And I want to hear you on this, and I want to hear about the diet that you recommend, the do's and don'ts. So is that okay if we dive there?
Oh, yeah, of course. Food is always the biggest thing. It's been the biggest issue since I've been doing this for almost 3 years now. It's been the biggest issue. So I did create a cookbook, a community cookbook, and it's part 1. And then by the end of the year, we'll have a couple of more. Because food is such a stressful thing for people when they're cleansing, I usually say that the first cleanse, just do your best. No, they say no meat, but like I've kind of been researching a little bit more, and that's kind of like a difference in opinion at this point for other people. But if you're gonna eat meat while on the cleanse, it should be grass-fed and grass-finished beef, preferably turkey. They have less issues than chickens do. So white meat, and then if you have to do it, do as organic as possible when you do eat meat, and no sugar, no alcohol. And if you do have to eat them, it's okay. Like, it's okay. First off, your taste buds are going to change because the way that they are in our bodies kind of controlling us in a way that it sounds so sci-fi, but it's the truth. They control what we want to eat. I don't like sugar, but if I'm flared up, I will eat sugar, right? So you just have to know that the first time you cleanse, life is going to be different after that cleanse. You're actually going to crave real food, not the yuck food. So do your best. We do have foods to avoid on our website, and we also have a cookbook that you can download, and it's all free. So you can download it's like 127 pages of like things that people ate. But if you do it, it's not an end all. If you eat terribly, you're just not going to feel the best. We're trying to starve them so that it's an easier kill off, right? So we're trying to remove them the best we can. And if you're feeding them, you're giving them strength. If you're actually avoiding the foods that we're telling you to avoid, you're weakening them. And then you're coming in like a punch, like secret coming in, right? They're like, why am I not getting fed? And then you come in with the herbs.
And then okay, so let's talk about the foods maybe that contain the most parasites just to help. So pork, for example,
Yeah.
obviously raw fish, but you
Mhm.
are saying kind of all fish.
All fish from and the belly of the fish. So when I've gone down to our farmers market, which I live in Pike, in Seattle, so I live near the fish throwers, and I went down and I interviewed them, and they looked at me like I'm some crazy worm lady, and I am. And so I said, what do you mean it's all natural? And they were like, almost all fish have worms, like it's natural. And I'm like, okay, say that louder, please, into my phone. Mainly around the belly, and it's just the way that it's cut too. The fish is cut. So if it's cut in a different way, they don't survive. But I mean, it is normal. This is normal. Like it's normal for animals to have it because they're close to the dirt. They're drinking the water. They're living in the water. Like it is normal. It's just not normal for Western medicine people.
Yeah. And so I've always been curious of that. So let's say you buy some salmon and you cook it through.
Right.
Are they still going to be alive?
Usually it's like above so the CDC says between like 175 and 212 will kill anything. So boiling is 212 and that'll kill everything. Like that's why they tell you to boil your water, by the way, is not just contaminants that could be in there, it's parasites that are in there. When something breaks, it breaks in the dirt, and the dirt has parasites and they're microscopic and they get into the water, and then they tell you to boil. So that's kind of what it is. They're worried you'll get Giardia. Giardia is a waterborne parasite, and it's in a lot of our water. And I'm not worried about parasites in the water. I'm worried about worms because that's what happened. And a lot of countries don't test for nematodes. Nematodes are the physical worm, and that's what was in our water, was a nematode. And a couple other places that I've lived that I've tested the water also has nematodes because there isn't a good valid water test for nematodes. It's only
And
parasites.
what would be the symptom of that? If
It's
you
the same.
so it's
It's the same. Yeah.
possible.
And that's physical. So like one time when I was going to the bathroom, I felt like something had smacked me. And now I know what it was. And so that was like a big indication when all of this had started that like I was validating the situation that I was in with the parasites. Because I literally had physical worms in my body too.
Oh gosh. I'm curious just on a sidebar on water. So like would reverse osmosis get rid of it completely?
Yes. So reverse osmosis is what I was drinking, but I brushed my teeth, I showered, I wear contacts. So I was washing my hands, and then I put my finger in my eye, and I had a parasite in my eye. I had a worm in my eye for a while, and I'd gone to the doctor. You couldn't see it, but I could see it. It was behind. I mean, yeah, it's wild, right? Like we do our dishwasher, we wash our hands, like you can do reverse osmosis for your whole house. And that's what we recommend actually, is a full house filter with a UV light. Because then it'll kill 99.9% of everything. But I wasn't drinking the water. I was just using it on our bodies absorb 1 gallon of water every 15 minutes when you're in a bath, the lake, or a shower, and you're absorbing everything that's in there. And then I was washing my produce with our water, not really even paying attention, like not even thinking that I should be using distilled water or the RO water. And this was before we had a full property filtration system. Like you walk onto our property, the water hose is filtered water. Like we're not chancing anything.
We're the same here. I had we put the craziest system, and even the guy was like, "What? Like, are you sure you need all of this?" I was like, "Yep." Even the water in our garden is like all of it is, yeah, it's crazy. So I know what you mean, but Yeah, unfortunately, and you said you tested you did a lot of water samples through the country, right? So
Yeah.
you know firsthand.
Yeah.
how bad-
75% of our water is contaminated in the United States.
So
5%.
it's
That's the average we're at right now. And some of them are wells, but I don't think that they got good training either in how to take care of your water, because people that have a well, they all say the same thing. It's the best. I'm like, you're worst. You're the worst. Like, really, wells are the worst because they're not tested at all. They come literally from the dirt, right?
yeah.
And when you go in, so when people would come into the emergency room of complaining of abdominal pain, the first thing I would say, and then the first thing someone said to me was, do you have a well? Like,
Wow.
first thing, because well water is the worst. But being around where I've been around, it's just as bad as city water, because again, we only test for parasites, Giardia, D. fragilis, crypto. We do not test for nematodes like roundworm, flatworm, tapeworms, worm, those worms. We just don't have that in our country.
Okay, so then it's back to us to just cleanse on a regular basis. And so, okay, so let's say we're not eating raw fish, we're not eating, at least pork, wine, we're not drinking alcohol, we're not eating sugar and processed food because that's feeding them. And we are doing this cleanse that you are recommending, which of course we're going to put all the links in the show notes. But we're doing this for 30 days.
Yeah. To
And
start.
yeah, okay. So I want to hear you there. What happens after?
So we chose, just so you guys know why I chose 30 days. One, because it's after 21 days, you make or break a habit. And so I just did not want to put a product out there that was very expensive and that you didn't finish. So 30 days is your starting point. You can do back-to-backs. I say back-to-back. So you can do 30 days, you wait 7 days, you do 30 days again, you wait 7 days. It's not going to harm you to continue to cycle these in and out of your life. We recommend 3 to 4 times a year. That's just a recommendation, but you can do it. It's 3 or 4 times a year or with symptoms. So if you're getting off of a cleanse and you still have some symptoms, you should get back on a cleanse. Like, you should continue to cycle through and do this until you're starting to feel better. I cleansed every day for almost a year. And I rotated. So I did like synthetics because I had crypto and it was like shutting my organs down. So I was doing herbs, then I did synthetics, then I did herbs. So, and then now I just do herbs, and I do them 5 to 7 days over the full moon. And then I do maintenances in between, and then I do 3 to 4 a year, full 30 days. And whenever I travel, I bring my Parasite kit with me because I try my best to not eat raw produce. I try my best to not eat the questionable foods, but like, I'm human and I want the human experience. So I make sure that I have that as a digestive aid. And then, so if I do travel, I have it. I usually take it while I'm on the vacation, and then right before I eat questionably, and then I do it a couple of days after. And because I've had parasites and I have been so ill with them, I do know what my symptoms are when they start to come on. And mine are really an emotional symptom. So I do know when it's time for me to cleanse and if I caught a parasite somewhere, right? So
Goal is to become so connected to our body that we know. And I know when I'm ready for a detox or for a cleanse, it's like, let's go. It's like not a minute to lose. So I love that. Okay, so we do the 30 days and then we pay attention, we check back in with our symptoms. If we still have things that feel wonky, we keep going. And I want to hear you about kids.
okay.
So how, because kids are so impacted by this.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what do we do?
So you can use Parasite ages 3 and up. We're one of the few parasite cleanses that you can use as a kid for a kid. It is a tincture, and so you can study it the way you need to study it with them. You can have them start 3 times a day. You can have them start twice a day. You can have them start once a day. You can do 10 drops. Like, that's what's great about a tincture. You can add it to juice. You can add it to water. And then I know some kids, it's hard to have them take pills. So you can open up the Cinnabon and dump it in, that's our binder, dump it into applesauce and have them eat it that way. There's cinnamon in there. So it'll taste good. It'll just be black and it'll look funky, but make fun of it, like, ooh, this is cool. You're eating black applesauce. So like, there's things, and I really took account when I was making this kit for kids because every child should be cleansing. Pinworms don't go away. They
No.
just go dormant, and they can go dormant for decades.
So
And then
wait a minute. So even with the over-the-counter medication,
Yeah.
they don't go away?
you should still be cleansing, even taking that. They just went dormant. Like, unless you take that and you take a binder and then you follow it up, all you did was kill that cycle. You didn't kill all the cycles. You just killed that specific cycle. And as they were leaving your body, they were leaving another generation for them to continue to live in your system, because that's what they do. They're stealthy. They literally can hide. They don't need to be fed like you're thinking. They can live in our blood and our tissue and absorb the toxins and absorb our nutrients, and you'll never even know it. You'll just be like, gosh, I feel tired today. Gosh, I feel anxious today. Why? Because you're not getting all the nutrients into your body because they're absorbing it and you're never even going to know. So instead of even getting down this spiral circle of a hamster wheel, just 3 to 4 times a year, like including your kids, this is really a deworming world that we should be living in, like other countries. Pinworms, I'm going to be honest, are the most stealthiest. They get into your heart, they get into your lungs. And in my opinion, this is my own words, this isn't some medical research. Pinworms are, lice of the butt.
Yes.
And when they're outside, they're called pinworms. When they get into your body, they're called threadworms. Are they the same thing? They are. But when you think about it this way, they're 2 different types of pinworm, just like there's different types of dogs. It's still in the pinworm family, but when it gets into your lungs and into your heart, you have hard time breathing. You're going to have some issues with your respiratory system because they're a thread. You're going to have issues with your smelling, like people that are pulling them out of their nose. It's because that's a threadworm, which comes from a pinworm. And so there are asthma, like people that have done our kit have said how much better their asthma is because they're clearing up the mucus and biofilm that is chilling in the lungs and the heart, which most people don't realize how much these 2 things work together and how much harder your body is pushing in order to get past that, to heal you and to be in a good state of homeostasis. So the pinworms can cause a lot more problems in your body, and it doesn't always get rid by kombucha or kombantron or whatever the chocolate is. Like, you really need to go in and do a main cleanse, especially when you have pinworms. If your child has them, you should be cleansing them 3 to 4 times a year, and then they're going to be more susceptible to catching parasites. Just like if you've had lice as a child, that's a parasite. If you had scabies, your body is now more susceptible to those specific types of parasites. So it really is of importance that if your child has pinworms, that you at least cleanse them with a main cleanse a few times a year.
And that's the full 30 days.
Yep, the full 30
Oh
days.
my gosh. Because I don't know personally of a child that goes through kindergarten without pinworms.
Yeah. This is why it's mandatory and specific, like in Mexico. Like, I think I want to go down to Mexico now and really just kind of talk to everybody, because some people say, oh, that's not true. But from other countries or from other parts of Mexico, 100%, just like you can't go into our system here in the United States without, some sort of a jab. And, I like 70. So I was in the healthcare field. My dad was military. Like, you had to get those things. And so why is it so weird for our country to think that other countries don't require something for you to go into school? Because pinworms literally are contagious and they are lice of the bum.
That's why, like, if one kid has them, they all got it, because
right.
In kindergarten, they can't wash their hands. The whole thing is, and
they touch something, they're like hanging out with each other. Like, literally it is lice of the bum. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I know what my kids are going to be starting tonight.
And so, I developed it in my mind specifically for pinworms because I had pinworms myself. So if you're treating pinworms with our kit, you should take Sustain 3 times a day.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. So for people listening, this kit comes with 3 tinctures, Parafy, Sustain, and Metal Flush. So do we want kids to take the 3, but we just maybe start with a lower dose and we increase? But is it gentle enough that kids could also take a full dose?
Yes.
Okay, and kids can also do the fulvic soak. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah. Or you can take a bath. I just got a bathtub because I was living in a travel trailer while I was building my log home, and all of this happened while I was doing that. We didn't have a bath, so I've never taken a fulvic bath, but you can take a fulvic bath. You can do it as a fun family event too, like do your foot soak with all of them. Make sure you have some Epsom salt afterwards. So usually what I would do is I do the fulvic for 30 minutes and kids maybe like 20 minutes just because it is pretty powerful, and then let it soak and see everything that floats up, and then do an Epsom salt soak. And for the purpose of that is because sometimes it can cause die-offs, itching, movement, and the Epsom salt soak kind of grounds that and stops that.
wow. Woof. Okay. Let's just go through a couple more questions that I received from the community.
Okay.
One of them was, what about when you're pregnant or breastfeeding? I want to hear you on that.
Yeah, you can't do any cleanse while you're pregnant or breastfeeding. Unfortunately, the reason is, their drainage pathways, you're pregnant, nothing's really been studied, and you just want to be careful. Under the age of 3, we're really conscientious to say no to that as well, specifically because the wormwood says no under the age of 3. So we say no. We just go with the most restricted herb. And if you're on chemo meds or if you're on Coumadin, and I say blood thinners in general, so on blood thinners, because wormwood is actually Mother Nature's steroid and also thins your blood. So you need to be really conscientious of those 2 things. And then if you get off of chemo, not medical advice, you should wait 30 days before you do anything different to your body, because your blood has changed with that too. So there are some restrictions with Parafy. There's very minimal restrictions with Parafy. And we also have like links that you can test your medication against our herbs so that you get a full understanding of what you're doing prior to doing this. My goal is always to be your own patient advocate. And that starts with you. Like, you have to do these things in order for, no one's going to do them for you.
No, I love it. Okay. And if someone is taking a medication, like you've mentioned, let's say Synthroid, they would continue that during the cleanse, right?
Yeah, we actually have instructions on that card
Yeah.
because so many thyroid patients that we put that on there, and it throws the non-thyroid patients for a loop. They're like, I'm not on Synthroid. I'm like, thank goodness for you.
Yes. But yeah, you're saying take the thyroid medication first thing, then an hour later. So it's very clearly indicated, which is incredible. Yeah, I'm excited to try this. I've, as I shared with you, I've always used a different protocol, but I'm so excited to try this. And the other protocol I was using, I couldn't put my kids on it. It's just too much, and too many pills. No, the cell core is too intense to me. It's the Equalite.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't recommend that one.
I like Cellcore, I'll be honest. I like everyone in this space. I feel like there's enough for everyone to try everything. So I try and not say anything like Paragard. It's a good spot to start, but personally, I like the fact that we soak our own herbs for 5 to 6 weeks, so we are doing it old school, and that's what makes us different. And it's a different cleanse. It's not just physically, you're energetically removing parasites in your world as well. And I really put a lot of thought and effort when I was creating the herbs and putting those herbs in to my kits. Is I have a 50-50, like my body, it was physically dominated with these things, and energetically, like spiritually, my soul was so weighted down. And I just really took account into like all of my life things. And at the time I won't go too much into it. I was in no contact with my family for 7 years. We're in contact again. Like, it's really crazy how much these things take from us, not just physically, but emotionally. And I had terrible PTSD, horrible anxiety, depression, like overall, just they really do take because your body's not working appropriately.
No, exactly. I'm glad you brought that up. It's so important. And with
Yeah.
the amount of mental illness we're seeing, we owe it to ourselves at least 30 days to give this a try, and you've made it so it's easy to take. You can travel with it. It's like there's really no excuse. I have one last question. Tincture, do you like to just keep it under the tongue for like a minute or so, or what's your recommendation? Do you just take it? Doesn't
I
matter.
just take it. I just take it. I like the way they taste, but some people don't. So you can put it in water juice or empty capsules, size 0.0. If you don't want to take it as a tincture, I recommend taking it that way as a tincture because it gets right into your bloodstream. It's easily absorbed, and it doesn't have to fight your stomach acid and anything that could be involved in your stomach.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, we literally could go for another 2 hours. You are such a wealth of information. Thank you for doing this work, for being also so available to support your community and beyond, because you are really changing lives and making people so much more aware and in healing themselves. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to the community.
Yeah, and so if people want to follow you because you're everywhere, where should they should they go?
Well, Miss Rogers Hood is my handle, so MRS Rogers Hood. And but on Insta it's .hood. I feel for the gal who has my real handle because she just must. Oh, and she's not she's not private, she's public. So I wonder what her DMs look like because I know what mine look like. But you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We have support groups that are on Facebook. Rogers Hood is also our handle. So we have multiple different places that you can find us. We're just kind of everywhere. You can find me on rogershood.com. That's our website. And we answer every email, comment, and DM.
Awesome. We will put all these links in the show notes. Thank you so much, dear worm queen. And we will see you around on the internet, and another proof that social media is not all bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, it saved my life. So,
I think that. Awesome. Thank you so much.
thank you.
The information shared on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't provide any medical advice. Vanessa Grutman does not cure, diagnose, or treat disease. Please consult your physician before trying any new protocol or product.